Imagine returning to your childhood home 16 years after surviving a horrifying home invasion, only to realize the nightmare might not actually be over. Today I'm recapping and reviewing the 2018 horror thriller Incident in a Ghostland. So hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. We start with a young boy running across the road as a car passes, while Beth reads her writing to her mother Pauline and sister Vera. The story is about a boy who could see evil things and somehow knew they were coming. Vera thinks her sister is a freak and makes fun of her writing, which is mean but also not completely wrong because the ending of Beth's story was kind of confusing. Something about the boy's mom finding a trail of pee leading to an empty closet, and then that's it. Not exactly the strongest ending, but Pauline reassures Beth that she's good enough and encourages her to keep writing. My stories weren't great at 13-14 either, so. A candy truck, which is something I've never heard of before, pulls up next to them honking. Everyone waves, but Vera also flips them off. We never offend creepy people because we don't know what they're capable of, Vera. Rule number 1. They stop at a gas station where Beth tells the worker they're moving into their deceased Aunt Clarice's house. Beth looks through some old horror books when she notices a candy truck driving away. What are you doing here? She then finds a newspaper about a family killer striking again. She tells Vera that the man kills the parents and spares the daughters, and I have a sneaking suspicion where this is about to go. They arrive at the old house, which is filled with creepy dolls and antiques. The girls discover a mirror with a secret button that opens up a hidden compartment, and inside is a creepy animatronic doll that laughs loudly. Why would their aunt set this up? Personally, I would move out immediately. Pauline finds Beth crying because she got her period, and Vera isn't exactly supportive. Pauline calls Vera out for always being mean to her sister. Vera says Beth is scared of everything, and reveals Beth made a fake interview pretending she was a famous writer, saying she needs a reality check. And I mean, that's not such a crazy thing to do. I did worse at 14. Pauline brushes it off and goes back inside while Vera freaks out, claiming their mom loves Beth more than her. Then the candy truck appears behind her, and Vera leaves the door open while the truck pulls up. We do not do that, Vera. Rule number 2. While unpacking, the girls hear creaking noises, but Beth assumes it's just the old house. Rule number 3. Never assume. Pauline gets a call from someone named Jane, but the call cuts out because of bad service, and then the candy truck man appears and slams her into the wall. He grabs the girls and drags them downstairs while another woman enters the house. She flips the girls off as they're being dragged into the basement as a callback to when Vera did it to them. In the basement, the large man smells Beth's period and throws her aside before dragging Vera into another room. Beth escapes to the upstairs, abandoning her sister, but is unable to open the front door for some reason. Don't know if that's an old house thing. She's attacked by the truck woman who doesn't want Beth to see her face. But as she approaches Beth, Pauline attacks her. Yay, she isn't dead. But after a fight with the truck woman, she may be. Pauline is stabbed by a broken bottle, but manages to knock out the truck woman so the girls can get away. But Pauline's still got some energy left because when she hears Vera screaming, she rushes to her rescue, attacking the large man and stabbing him to death. The truck woman then approaches and Pauline takes her out too. Okay, Mama Bear. But before we can see what happens next, we jump forward 16 years. Current day Beth is still having nightmares about that night, and her husband comforts her. She's also become a successful writer with her book covers displayed all over her wall. She writes on a typewriter, which makes me wonder if writers still use those? I don't know. Later, Beth is interviewed about her new book, Incident in a Ghostland. They said the thing. The book is a tribute to her family, but Beth refuses to confirm whether the story is based on what actually happened, but with context clues, I'm assuming it is. While watching the interview with her husband and her son, who likes wearing a jester costume, Beth gets a panicked phone call from Vera. Vera tells her to come home because they're still in the house. Beth immediately calls her mom, hoping she's there with Vera, but Pauline doesn't answer, so Beth heads back to the house. Not sure why they're still there. At first it seems like nobody is home, which is worrisome, but then Pauline shows up, completely fine, and apparently Vera is fine too. We get another look at the compartment mirror, and I'm thinking this is going to be a good hiding spot later. Beth says the house looks exactly the same, but Pauline explains she sold most of the antiques and will use the money to renovate. Beth mentions the money she's been sending to her and then breaks down, feeling guilty that she left them behind, but Pauline reassures her that she did the right thing by living her own life. They're interrupted when Vera starts screaming from the basement, and she does not seem to be doing so well. Vera screams for help as Pauline and Beth bring her back to her padded room. Once she calms down, she finally notices that Beth is home. Later, Beth asks her mom how she manages all of this. Pauline explains that Vera relives that night over and over again, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. That night, Beth hears a noise and she opens a secret compartment in the mirror and gets distracted by the creepy doll that is currently outside the mirror before something suddenly grabs her and pulls her inside. Obviously just a dream. Probably. When she wakes up though, she finds the words "help me" written on the mirror. So naturally she heads down to the basement looking for Vera. There she finds handcuffs and a shaken Vera who asks if Beth is really going to let her die alone. She also says that they are constantly punishing her and asks Beth to tell them she's not a bad girl. Beth tries to comfort her, but then hears a truck honking outside, a familiar honk. She goes outside and only catches a glimpse of it driving away, but she doesn't seem worried about it. Afterwards, she searches for Pauline and finds a dog wandering the property. We spend an oddly long time staring at this dog before Pauline finally shows up and chases it away. Later that night, Pauline gets drunk and starts making comments about wishing she'd eaten her daughters so they would never leave her. Weird comment, but Beth doesn't mind. Meanwhile, downstairs, Vera whispers to herself that she misses Beth and that Beth left her all alone. Then she hears creaking. At the same time, Beth is upstairs helping Pauline to bed when she notices another mirror with "help me" written across it. And she just doesn't care. She follows whimpering and finds Vera chained to a bed, dressed up like one of the dolls. And this does not feel like something she could have done to herself. Beth searches for the keys to the chain, but when she exits the room, it slams shut and locks. She listens helplessly as Vera is attacked inside the room, and at this point I was starting to assume it's a ghost story. Eventually the screaming stops, then somebody starts knocking on the door. Creepy. Beth leaves to find Pauline while hearing creepy, demonic whispering throughout the house. The door finally opens and we get a glimpse of what Vera has been supposedly dealing with this entire time, as she's attacked by something we can't see. An ambulance is called, but Pauline still insists Vera did that to herself. She claims Vera wants something from Beth. So is this a ghost story, or does Vera just want us to think that? Vera locks herself in the basement afterwards, and Beth tries talking to her through the door, and that's when she hears a voice telling her that they broke her sister, and now it's her turn. Okay. A moment later, she briefly sees the large man in the hallway, so at this point I'm fully convinced we have a ghost problem. That night, the dog starts growling outside the window, then Beth is suddenly grabbed by the truck woman, and she wakes up on the couch in a new outfit, covered in bruises. I feel like they should probably leave the house, but that's just me. She searches for her mom and finds herself locked in the house again. Beth heads down to the basement looking for Vera. She accuses her of hurting her, but Vera keeps insisting Beth needs to face the truth and accept what happened. We then flash back to Pauline fighting the truck woman in the kitchen that night, and as I originally suspected, Pauline died that night. Low-key, I'd rather stay in this state of naive bliss, unaware that happened. But then, we find ourselves back in the basement with the younger versions of Beth and Vera. Vera explains that Beth escaped into her imagination to survive, but now she's back. And we realize that the entire adult storyline wasn't real. The interviewer, the dog, her husband, her son in the jester costume, pieces of her life are hidden around the basement. Back in reality, the candy truck arrives back at the house. Vera quickly pulls Beth into hiding and tells her it's a game. If they find her, she shouldn't fight back, or else the man will go worse on her. A few moments later, the truck woman finds Beth anyway, and she's knocked out almost immediately. When she wakes up, the woman is dressing her up like one of the dolls. She forces alcohol down her throat and places her amongst the others before leaving. Beth secretly pulls a sharp pin from one of the dolls and hides it in her hair as a large man approaches. He inspects the dolls and chooses one, but when it speaks, he burns it. Getting another look at the dolls, he picks Beth this time, and trigger warning, he begins touching her. But then she pulls the pin out of her hair and stabs him in the shoulder. Not a kill shot, so we're about to have a problem. The man freaks out and hears the dolls tell him he's ugly and nobody loves him, so he starts smashing them in a rage. Beth makes a run for it and reaches the door, however, the truck woman is waiting on the other side. The large man drags Beth back to the room, but she fights back. She grabs a typewriter and smashes him over the head with it. I guess writers don't actually use typewriters. She runs for the door again, but hesitates, and good thing because the truck woman begins smashing the door with a mallet. Beth retreats back into the room and throws the typewriter through the window. Then, just as I suspected earlier, the secret mirror compartment finally becomes important. She hides inside. The stupid laughing doll almost gives away her hiding spot. I blame Aunt Clarice for that one, but Beth manages to stay hidden. Once the coast is clear, she sneaks downstairs while the truck woman searches outside, thinking she jumped out of the window. Beth finds Vera in the basement and frees her. The girls quietly move through the house, hiding from the truck woman. Luckily, she's distracted by the large man having a fit upstairs, and they escape. They run through the night until morning and finally find a police car on the road. Beth tells the officers that a witch and an ogre kidnapped them, while Vera clarifies that it was 2 men in a candy truck. And this was the first time I realized that the truck woman was transgender, I guess. One officer contacts dispatch and learns that Janet from the gas station spoke to these girls earlier and knew they were heading to Clarice Jourdan's house. The officer tells his partner that he knows where they came from, and for a brief moment it feels like everything is going to be okay. Unfortunately, the truck woman shows up and shoots both officers dead. So frustrating. Back in the candy truck, Vera screams and fights while Beth has basically checked out again. The truck arrives back at the house and the woman drags them inside while Beth retreats into her fantasy world once again, which is where I'd want to be too. She's suddenly at a fancy party with her mother. Everyone is happy and normal. Even H.P. Lovecraft shows up to compliment her writing. Spoiler alert, he's been dead for almost 100 years. But then Beth notices Vera banging on a door, begging for help. Pauline tells Beth that there's nothing left for her there, but Beth decides that she can't leave her sister alone again. So she chooses reality, no matter how awful it is. Back in reality, Beth is being attacked by the large man and almost killed, and she's actually saved by the laughing doll in the mirror. So thank you, Aunt Clarice. While the large man attacks the doll, I guess he can't tell the difference between dolls and people, Beth rushes over to Vera, who's being choked by the truck woman. She bites a few chunks of flesh out of the woman. Good job, Beth. The large man comes charging in, but before he can reach them, he's shot dead by a police officer, finally. The truck woman tries to attack him and she gets shot too, and it's finally over. The truck woman's wig falls off, revealing she's bald underneath, which, again, she's transgender? Okay. The girls are finally rescued, for real this time. As Beth is being taken away, she looks back at the house and sees her mother standing in the window. Pauline points to the typewriter, one final reminder to keep writing. Then the movie makes me nervous again. We spend a little too much time with Beth talking to the ambulance driver, and I was thinking there was going to be another plot twist, maybe another false reality. But Beth just tells him she likes to write stories, and we roll credits. Thank God. And that was Incident in a Ghostland. This movie was actually really good. I liked this plot twist way better than if it had just been a ghost story. That scene with Vera being attacked by an invisible force completely had me convinced the truck people were ghosts haunting the house, but I guess that was the point. Kept me guessing the whole time, which I always appreciate. Finding out the entire adult timeline was just Beth's way of coping with what was actually happening was such a brutal reveal. Honestly, I would have rather stayed in the fake timeline where Pauline survived. It was way more heartbreaking finding out they never escaped and had been trapped there the whole time. And Vera was kind of selfish for pulling Beth out of that fantasy so she wouldn't be alone, but I understand from her POV that it had to have been hard with Beth being catatonic while she was dealing alone. Crystal Reed was great in this role. She really got to show that emotional side of her acting that we only got little glimpses of in Teen Wolf. Taylor Hickson and Amelia Jones were amazing too. I've seen them in Deadly Class and Lock and Key, respectively, but those didn't have the same opportunities to show this kind of range, so it was good to see. I will say this movie's kind of hard to watch at times. It's not because it's super gory, but because it's just really disturbing. The villains are unsettling, and once you know what's actually happening, some scenes hit way harder than they did the first time. I'm not sure what the point was of making one of the villains transgender though, but I didn't notice until Vera said it was 2 men in a candy truck. That's also when I learned what a candy truck was. Overall, I thought this was a really solid psychological horror movie, though it had a lot of bad reviews, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Comment below what you thought of this movie, like and subscribe for recaps, deep dives, and more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.